Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. So in today's episode we are talking about Ty West's latest installment in the horror genre, A24's X. Now I know this movie came out about a month ago, so this review is probably a few weeks late, but you know what they say, better late than never. So I watched X for the first time last night and I wanted to come on here to talk to you guys about it because I feel like with this film there is so much to talk about. X follows a group of young actors who set out to make an adult film at a farmhouse in Texas owned by an elderly couple. But when the elderly couple discover what they're doing, the group finds themselves in a desperate fight for their lives. So if you've seen my movie reviews before, you know that what I tend to do is split them into positives and negatives, or spoilers and non-spoilers. But with X, I feel like it's been out for quite a while now, so I'm going to be safe including spoilers, which, heads up, I'm going to. And for me personally, I just don't feel like there are any negative aspects about this movie. The whole cast of X give a really strong performance in the movie, and there wasn't a single character that I didn't like, apart from the elderly couple, but seeing as how they are the villains of the movie, we are supposed to dislike them. But even then, there is a level of sympathy with them, which I will get into more later on. But there is not a single character that is a douchebag or unlikable, or the one where you look at them and you think, yeah, you're going to be the first one to go. The script also does a really good job of giving us just enough information about each of these characters for us to invest in them, and this is done in a really natural way. There is no exposition dump here. Everything unfolds nicely through the characters' conversations or through their actions and decisions. What I also love about the characters is that they're not just a trope or one characteristic. There is no nerdy one or sexy one or bad girl one. While you're watching the movie, you may think that they have done this, but each character, especially the young women, subvert your expectations. You have one character who is the sexy blonde bombshell, but she's also a really kind person, and you have another character who's a little bit buttoned up in the beginning, but also that changes as the film goes on. For the amount of information that we're given about them, they're really well fleshed out characters, and we see them experience things and feel things in a really human way. A really good example of this is the character RJ, who's the director / cameraman, in his reaction and response to finding out that his girlfriend now wants to be involved in the movie. Mia Goth is absolutely incredible in the movie, and like her character Maxine, she definitely has the X factor, and I found her mesmerising in some of the scenes. But I didn't realise until the credits rolled that Mia Goth actually plays Pearl as well, but I don't know how obvious that was supposed to be. I mean, she's hidden under a lot of prosthetics and for the most part kept in the shadows. I also really liked Brittany Snow as Bobby Lynn, who I had only previously seen in the Prom Night remake, and I also liked Martin Henderson, who plays Wayne, and I knew him from the Ring remake. I thought that both characters were really likeable, but definitely added a level of humour to the film as well. Horror movies, and in particular slasher movies, are often considered and written off as lowbrow entertainment, so it's really interesting to see A24 doing a slasher movie. A24 is well known for its production of what is often considered artsy movies and more elevated horror. Their movies are often highly polished and have a lot to say, and while they're not always to everybody's taste, they are for the most part highly regarded. And I think with X they struck a really good balance of capturing that gritty 70s slasher aesthetic with something that is really visually artistic as well. I think that X is a movie that shows its audience that slasher movies can be well written and can have characters that are not just stupid and two-dimensional, and that a slasher movie can have something to say. X pays homage to horror movies from the 70s, but also a little from the 60s too. I think the most obvious and notable references are to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but also in a smaller way to Psycho. For nods to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you obviously have a group of young adults who are travelling through the wide open roads of Texas in a minivan, and they stop off at a gas station. They see roadkill on their journey and they end up at a farmhouse that looks a lot like the Sawyer house. As for Psycho, there are a few shots from the shower scene that are very similar to shots from the shower scene in Psycho. And there's one point in the movie where I think it's Jackson who's helping to search for Pearl. He discovers a car, I think it's a 60s car, it could be a 70s car, and it's sort of nose first in the swamp with the back bit sticking out. And it's very reminiscent of the shot at the end of Psycho where Marion Crane's car has been dragged out of the lake behind Bates Motel. And the characters themselves actually reference Psycho within the movie. But it also feels like you're watching an odd cross between Boogie Nights and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. While X is a horror movie, the slasher element of it does take a while to get going, and it does leave you wondering when it's going to start, but also where the horror element is going to come from. A perfect example of this is how early on in the film we, the audience, find out that there are alligators in the swamp, as we get that wide shot of Mia Goth swimming in the water and she's slowly being followed by an alligator. And that scene made me really tense, but of course nothing happens. But you're left thinking this is probably going to come back into play later on in the movie. And boy, does it pay off later when Bobby Lynn gets what is probably the best death in the movie, as she's pushed into the water and an alligator just comes into shot and bites her head. So X has a few different themes running through it. The main one is obviously sex, as the main group is wanting to make a porn movie. And I think that X does a really good job of addressing how sex workers can be viewed and the double standards that some men can have when it comes to the industry. This is shown really well through the character of RJ, the director/cameraman, who in the beginning of the film kept accusing his girlfriend of being a prude and belittling her because she was a little bit shocked by it all initially. But then he goes back on everything that he's said about that industry when his girlfriend then decides that she wants to have a role in the film as well. Another theme that cropped up in the movie is that of people feeling judged for the things that they watch. Within the movie, they're obviously referring to people watching porn movies, but there is a dual layer to this, as horror fans can often feel judged for things that they watch. And there's this great line in the movie from RJ, the director/cameraman, who says that you can make a good dirty movie. And I think that this is a meta self-referencing thing where it's saying you can make a good horror movie. Ty West has actually said that historically, horror and pornography has always had a bit of a symbiotic relationship. And then the other main theme of the movie is that of growing old, and in particular people's fear of growing old. There's a lot of parallels and contrasts drawn between Pearl and the younger women, in particular Maxine, who Pearl really latches onto. There's even a scene in the film where they're sat at the kitchen table drinking lemonade, and as they're sat on opposite sides of the table, they're like a mirror image of each other. That's why Mia Goth plays both Pearl and Maxine, to clearly show that Pearl sees herself in Maxine. And it's why Pearl hates these other women, because they're young and they're beautiful and they remind her of what she's lost. These women represent the life and time that she used to have. There's this amazing scene in the movie that split screens between Bobby Lynn having fun with her friends and singing Fleetwood Mac's Landslide, with Pearl, who is getting ready for bed, but she's sadly looking at herself in the mirror, surrounded by these beauty products that are now just covered in dust. And I think that the song choice of Landslide adds a really beautiful and haunting level to the scene, as the song is also about growing older and the fear of wanting to achieve something with your life before time runs out and then dealing with that. But as well as looking into people's fear of growing old, it also looks into how older people are viewed and treated by society. I loved all of the music used in X as well. For one thing, aside from one song that is from the 60s, every song within the movie is actually from the 70s. And like I said earlier, I think that the use of Fleetwood Mac's Landslide, it was done really beautifully. But my other favourite use of a song was how at the end of the film, after all of the chaos and all of the carnage and all of the bloodshed, they decide to roll credits and end the movie with Robert Palmer's Bad Case of Loving You, this really fun and upbeat song. I mentioned before that X pays homage to movies from the 70s, and one way that it does this is through its editing. A lot of the movie has this gritty, almost soft focus to it, and it really helps make it feel like it's from an older decade. And some of the editing choices some of the editing choices are really unusual as well. The main one I'm thinking of is how in some parts of the movie they transition from one scene to another by intercutting quick cuts of clips from the current scene to the following scene. And sometimes when this is used, it really adds this strange level of uncomfortable tension to it. And finally, we couldn't talk about a slasher film without talking about the kills. I've already mentioned what I think is the best kill in the movie, but I think it's my favourite kill for a strange, morbid reason, because I just have this thing about being eaten alive. It's a real fear of mine, and I think that it has to be one of the worst ways to go. That's probably the most original kill in the movie, but while the others are just repeats of things that we have seen before, that doesn't mean that they're not good ones. I mean, RJ's kill is really violent and really gory, and Wayne's kill has a certain level of surprise to it. And of course we have the obligatory head trauma kill, which is kind of expected in A24 movies now, especially after Hereditary and Midsommar. I was so excited to watch X. All I'd seen was the movie posters, a couple of movie stills, and I'd heard that it paid homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I didn't read any reviews, I didn't watch the trailer. I wanted to go into it as blind as I could. After watching the film, I couldn't really tell you what I thought about it. I think I felt a little bit stunned, but after thinking back over it and just letting it sit with me for a little while, I really love this movie. I think it's potentially going to be a lot of people's favourite horror movie of the year, if not at least in their top 10. And what's exciting is that for fans of X, Ty West has announced that he's releasing a prequel to the movie called Pearl, which should apparently come out later on this year, and it's going to follow Pearl's younger life before the events of X. So there you have it, guys, my review of Ty West and A24's X. What did you guys think of this movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments down below and let's have a chat about this film. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you don't miss out on all the other wonderful content of this channel. But in the meantime, thank you as always for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye, guys.